Chuck Norris does not own a stove, oven, or microwave because revenge is a dish best served cold. We're talking Invasion USA. Hit it. It was 1985. A U.S. postage stamp cost 22 cents. A volcano erupted in Armero, Colombia. Terrorist gunmen shot passengers at Rome and Vienna airports. And Chuck Norris was a one-man anti-terrorist machine at Christmas time. I'm your host, Jerry D., with another episode of Totally Rad Christmas, the podcast that talks all things Christmas in the 80s. Toys, movies, specials, music, and fads. If it was gnarly during Christmas in the 80s, we got it covered. And joining me is a very special guest. You'll know him as the host of the Film Strip podcast, Ron Hogan. Ron, how's it going?
Jerry, it is going great.
Right on.
I'm thrilled to be able to talk about this movie.
This is a good one, man. I'm glad you brought this to my attention because it had been like decades since I had seen this one. And I'd completely forgotten about it until you mentioned it.
It is 100% one of the most 80s things that has ever been put caught in any media, and I'm including like Frank Zappa's Valley Girl. I'm including the movie Valley Girl. This is this is probably the most 80s. It's just a few neon. It's just like some neon Zubaz or some leg warmers short of just hitting the trifecta.
Yeah, I agree there. It's like classic Canon, just Canon Films. And I mean, everybody knows the Canon story, Menachem Golan and what's his name, Globus. And I mean, it's just
Globus.
That's it. Yeah. And I mean, it's literally like them. I don't think it gets more Canon than this movie, especially in this time period. And it's awesome. I love this movie. I mean, now, yes, it does have some flaws, but I mean, overall, I remember seeing it at the video store like every Friday night when we'd go, and always wanting to rent it, but it was always gone like every time. So I don't think I saw it till about 91 or so. And then from there, I mean, it's literally, like I said, it's been about 30 years since I'd seen it again. So I'm glad you brought it back to my attention because I'd completely forgotten about it.
Well, over at Film Strip, we got on we actually covered this one. We got into a bit of one of the things I brought to Film Strip when I first joined Film Strip was a love of terrible Canon movies. Yeah. So we got on board with Enter the Ninja, Revenge of the Ninja, Ninja 3 The Domination,
3,
Invasion USA, Avenging Force, the sequel in name only, but also the same character name, where you swap out Chuck Norris for Michael Dudikoff. American Ninja, all like 5 or 6 of those movies. So it was one of the things I brought to the podcast, and one of the things I hope to continue with the podcast is that love of Golan and Globus in all their coked up insanity.
That's probably the best way to say it.
It's funny that you mentioned that this is the most Canon movie that has possibly been made, because during the production, I want to say Menachem Golan called Joseph Zito while he was shooting it. He was thinking, they're going to fire me. They're going to tell me I need to cut the budget because it's Canon and that's what they do.
Yep.
But he had been watching the dailies and he loved what he saw so much. He was like, here's $2 million extra, blow some more stuff up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and I love how they used they found a lot of ways to get what they needed cost effectively. I mean, that's like typical Canon. So like when Rostov is blowing up, that neighborhood, I mean, the neighborhood was set to be demolished anyway. So, hey, yeah, go have fun.
for the expansion of Hartsfield Airport, I believe.
I think you're right. Yeah. I mean,
And they literally just gave them the permission to blow up a cul-de-sac, and it's really one of the most effective, one of the most effective Christmas scenes in the movie, and it's one of the most effective just scenes period in the movie, because there's just so many little touches. These people are literally just going about their day, kissing their girlfriend in the parked car. The little girl and her brother are fighting over who gets to put the star on the tree, so on and so forth. And Rostov and Nico are there with the law rocket, and they're just waiting. And Rostov's like, hold it. And he waits until the little girl runs into the house.
Inside, yeah.
And then he shoots and blows up the house.
That's crazy. And I know we're both dads. That got me this time watching it again. I was like, just thinking about not being able to protect my daughters. That got me as a dad for sure. I was just out of my mind with that. Oh no, this guy got to die. And of course, Chuck Norris delivers. He does so masterfully.
Oh yes, yeah. It's that one. That one isn't the one that gets me. What gets me is the one where it's the later on in the movie where the family is skulking to sneak into the church.
Oh yeah.
And they're just kind of the dad and the mom and the child are just kind of huddled together and creeping through the streets of Atlanta or Miami. I'm not sure where it is at that,
I don't remember.
Point,
yeah.
But it doesn't really matter.
No.
It's creeping through the streets with the National Guard everywhere, just trying not to be jumped by terrorists or shot by mistake by the National Guard. It's that one kind of hit home for me, as well as some of the rioting and food shortages that they talk about, what with COVID and the summer of COVID and all.
Yeah. This was a timely movie, I think. It's funny because I guess I'm getting ahead of myself, but essentially what the plot of the movie is that terrorists invade US, although it's not really like a strict invasion. It's more more subtle, where they just kind of take over, and it's like a secret invasion, I guess. And essentially Chuck Norris tries to stop them. And I know Rostov was he's known for, or in the movie, he's known for sowing dissent and unrest and that kind of civil uprising kind of thing. And so he essentially does that. I mean, they get their terrorists to dress as cops and gun down some, were they Cubans, I think?
Yeah, it was a bunch of Cubans having a Christmas party at a community center.
Yeah, I mean, and then they just take off. They leave one or two guys alive. And then, they just take off, and then the real cops come. And of course, they're all, the Cubans are all upset because naturally, but yeah, it's a lot of these kind of things where they just go in and just blow up a thing unsuspectingly. It's not like an actual full blown, Normandy style invasion, which is what I was kind of had it in my mind. That's what it was. I'd misremembered a whole lot of things about it. And I remember that whole scene where they just stormed the beach, and for some reason I don't know why I that part stuck out, but I expected more of that. And yeah, it's not really that. It's more of the that sowing dissent kind of
the French Resistance or partisans in the Eastern Front.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Actually, it's definitely much more like partisans plus a little bit of psyops, before that became a thing that we remember Russia doing to us. But yeah, I forgot the scope of the beach invasion and just how well shot that is. Because you don't expect a ton from Joseph Zito, because he's just the guy who did Friday the 13th.
Wasn't it
4?
Part
4 or part 5? I'll look it up. He did the final chapter, so that one was.
Was that 6?
No, that was 5, I think.
5, okay, yeah.
Because it's the one with the famous Crispin Glover dance scene, and Corey Feldman shaves his head and stuff. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is a really good one, but it's still. And he's generally a dependable, low budget movie guy, but this movie basically killed his career.
Oof.
because not because this movie was unsuccessful. This movie was wildly successful. Like on a $10 million budget, this movie made $17 million in the US, and it was until the mid 2000s MGM's second most popular ever home video release behind Gone with the Wind.
I read that. I thought that was amazing, and I mean that would explain why I was never able to rent it for years after it came out, just because it was always gone. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember because he's got Chuck Norris there with the two little mini Uzis strapped to his holster.
Yeah, the Uzi bra, I keep thinking of it as.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's Chuck Norris, so we should probably call it a bro. But yeah, I mean, that classic image. He's got like that jean vest jacket kind of thing, and he's got that the Uzi bra on, and like I remember that image and always wanting to like watch that movie, and I never got to, just because it was so popular. And so when I read that, I mean, I don't want to say trauma, but I mean, it brought back a lot of those memories.
It's okay, Jerry. This is a safe space. We're healing. We're healing together, because
I never got to watch it. Anyway,
I just had to print missing in action 8 times.
See, I'm glad you brought that up, because I remember watching Missing in Action and really liking it. And so I was like super down to watch, this Chuck Norris film, because before that I had only seen him in was it Return of the Dragon, I think, with when that famous fight with Bruce Lee in the Coliseum.
Yeah, which is a great fight. It remains a great
really
fight.
is, yeah.
But yeah, it's weird just how big this movie was.
Mm-hmm.
This movie essentially made canon for most of the 80s, because it gave them a formula to stick to, which was we'll go to a place where we can blow some stuff up. We'll say, hey, let's blow this stuff up. We do that. We have a cool poster that we can pre-sell internationally. We get one big star or someone we can make a star, and that's just what we'll do.
Yeah, because it was what, Chuck Norris, Charles Bronson. That was like another one of their big guys there, and they kind of did that same formula that you're talking about. And then I know Michael Dudikoff for a while.
Sho Kosugi. They made a lot of money off of him.
Yeah, these guys. I mean, I know they were kind of a joke around Hollywood, but they, in the 80s especially, they really started turning it around. I mean, they had some bigger budget films compared to what they'd done before. And I watching that Electric Boogaloo documentary, which is fascinating,
Yes.
and exactly what you were saying, they would pre-sell these movies just based on like a poster. Sometimes it wasn't even a poster. It was like a fake movie poster.
Well, that's one of the things that they are most famous for, is they would mock up these great posters with these great titles, sell it, and then say, use that money to go make the movie.
That's awesome. I mean, it's really genius when you think about it, I mean, hey, if you like market all the way. I mean, I'm in sales, so I understand it. And, but yeah, I mean, these guys really were, I don't know, ahead of their time, but they definitely saw things in a different light than most of mainstream Hollywood did. And I don't know if it's because they were foreign, or if it's just like some sort of romanticism that encapsulated them. I don't know, but all I know is that they definitely took that formula and ran with it, and they kind of made a lot of cool, cheesy but fun movies.
Yeah, Menachem Golan, growing up in Israel, was just obsessed with American movies. Now, they would only get like dubbed or subtitled or whatever American films there, but he was still just obsessed with America and American movies and making American style movies. So even when he was making movies in Israel before he came to the United States, he was trying to make American style movies that could play for the international audience, which is not a lot of dialogue and a lot of shooting and explosions and stuff that'll translate internationally. So he basically leveraged a chain of movie theaters that he owned literally until his death to start making his own product to distribute in Israel. And so he made some, Israeli comedies, and like he made like the first Israeli sex comedy. and then ended up just basically buying his way into Hollywood because here comes this weird foreigner with all this money. And he's going to get Charles Bronson, and he's going to go to the Philippines, and he's going to make a movie where Charles Bronson shoots like 30 Filipinos or whatever.
Which, I mean, that sounds ridiculous when you hear it, but like they made it work.
The whole story is ridiculous because one of the reasons why Franco Nero was in Enter the Ninja was because Menachem Golan ran into him at a film festival in Italy, and he liked his look, and he liked his mustache. So he made him. So he said, "You come to Philippines, make my movie." And so he brought him to the Philippines. Now, meanwhile, Franco Nero has to be dubbed because his English is terrible. But that doesn't matter because he looks cool and he's got a mustache.
Yeah,
and that was just enough. The old cliche of the guy he did things his own way is said about a lot of people, but no one person does it apply to more than Golan and Globus.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Well, there's that famous story with Van Damme. He kind of got the same kind of start where he called up, Golan, and he was like, "Hey, I'm an old friend. I'm leaving tomorrow. I got to come see you." And so then he shows up, and then he does like a split or what is a reverse roundhouse kick or something, and misses him by inches. And so he's like, "All right, you're in the movies. Let's go make a movie." I mean, that's awesome. You're right. That's not something that you normally see, especially in mainstream Hollywood. But I mean, it really took off, and I love that he kind of did the same thing with Chuck Norris. I mean, Chuck Norris was already kind of famous for being karate, but he wanted to expand. And so, enter Invasion USA and Missing in Action and all these awesome, movies that he came out in. And yeah, I think in the 80s, he was less like karate and more, more just machine gun kind of thing.
But they still managed to sneak in at least one, Chuck Norris roundhouse kick in everything he does. This kind of feels like, speaking of the roundhouse kick, this movie feels a little bit like a proto Walker Texas Ranger.
Yeah.
Because McNeil or whatever the girl's name is. Do you know her name?
I think so. Yeah. The reporter.
Yes, the reporter.
Yeah.
She keeps calling him Cowboy.
She does.
And the whole time I'm thinking, well, he's just going to put a hat on at some point and move to Texas. This is what he does after he kills Rostov in half of South Florida.
Retires and just changes his name to Walker.
Well, he goes into the witness protection program.
There you go. Yeah, I like that even better. Yeah, Chuck Norris. I mean, of course, you have the crazy jokes about Chuck Norris now, but I mean, I remember him being like so cool in the 80s. He had that thick mustache. It was kind of Tom Selleck-y, but he would also could like just do martial arts really well. And you're just like, man, this guy, like if I'm ever in trouble, I want Rambo and I want, what's the name? Is it Prophet? No, what's his name from Commando? Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want him, and I want Chuck Norris coming after me. Like those are the guys I want. And it's funny because in that kind of legacy that Chuck Norris, where he also, like you said, does roundhouse and all sorts of things, kind of started migrating towards, further on like Steven Seagal and then Van Damme and and their era. And so it was almost like was like a go-between because, you had Schwarzenegger and Stallone, who were just these like just beastly men, I mean, massive, that could just so strong, could shoot anything. And then you had Chuck Norris, who, he could shoot anything also, but he also knew martial arts and really could take you apart like that. He wasn't just going to beat you into submission. He could finesse it, and then of course you move into the next wave, which was like less guns and just more martial arts and stuff. So it's kind of like he's like the bridge, at least to me, in my mind. He's kind of like the bridge between the Schwarzeneggers and Stallones and like the the Van Dammes and Seagals.
Well, he was kind of one of the early guys to do it, and didn't reach the height of the other two, but he was definitely the first wave of like the straight to video action movie star dude. So after Chuck Norris did it, you got a lot of guys who were legit martial artists who were like, you know what, I could get kicked in the face for, you know, $10,000, or I could go make a movie where I pretend to get kicked in the face and make $150,000. So you got like Don the Dragon Wilson, who was a
Oh
legit martial
yeah.
artist.
Hmm.
You got like Gary Daniels, who was, I think, a kickboxer, full contact kickbox champion, like
Oh
Chuck
wow.
Norris. You got even guys like Dudikoff, who wasn't wasn't necessarily a fighter, but learned how to fight for movies.
Hmm.
Um, so he was kind of he was kind of the bridge between the gun guy and the martial arts guy. He was literally like the "Porque no los dos" meme, but with a beard.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have that Chuck Norris beard. Oh man. So yeah, Invasion USA, it again, I'd forgotten that there was even Christmas in it, until I saw it again. And then I remembered the mall scene, because the mall scene always stuck out to me a lot, growing up, after I saw it, because I mean it's literally, people shopping for Christmas, and then like just a huge truck that just like rams just through the mall. And of course, as a kid, that's like, whoa, it was amazing. I mean, even as an adult, it's amazing. And that's one of the things that I remember. This is okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to throw my parents under the bus here, but I remember growing up, they would always like make us stand with them, never let us out of their sight, and stuff like that, because they were kind of afraid of, people like running in and just smashing through the walls and stuff like that. And because the way our house was originally, before we moved, it was like right there on an intersection. So they were always afraid of, they would hear stories of like drunk drivers smashing through walls. So like when we'd go to malls and stuff like that, we'd always have to stick super close to them, because they were always afraid of some drunk driver on a Friday night coming and just like smashing the walls and stuff like that, and just running us over in the mall. So this scene, I remember when I watched it, I was like, that's what mom was talking about,
Now, do you think your mom was talking about Invasion USA, or do you think she was talking about the Blues Brothers?
Probably the Blues Brothers.
You've got because you've got two different choices.
I don't think she's ever seen Invasion USA. Yeah. No, I don't think she's ever even heard of Invasion USA. I know my dad probably has, but
I mean, this is definitely like one of the most dad movies of all time.
yeah, I mean, there's like very little plot, which I think is a shame, because apparently there's like a ton of stuff that they cut. And I sent you a link to that novelization that what's his name, Obstfeld, did. And
Mm-hmm.
I was really intrigued by that, because I don't know how much of that he added and how much of that was actually part of the original script that was just cut. I mean, I know a lot of the novelists that do these novelizations, they usually either work from like an earlier script, or they just add stuff to fill in plot holes. And I don't know how much he just added, or how much was in the original script, but knowing that they cut so much from the movie, it really makes me wonder, like, is there scenes that were filmed that are part of that, that they kind of echo that? Because the novelization sounds great. Like, I want to buy it and read it. That's how great it sounds.
One of the things I can tell you is they did chop a lot of the plot out of this movie just to get you back to the action.
Mm-hmm.
It's really choppy. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not even choppy. It's episodic. It's like watching. It almost comes together like another '80s classic, UHF, where it's just a bunch of
like vignettes
and short scenes and things that are stitched together with kind of smashed together to make a movie loaf rather than like an actual movie.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
But yeah, a lot of stuff did hit the cutting room floor, but I'm not sure what exactly it was and how it matches up with the novelization. Because, but I would be fascinated to know that, and if you get that novelization, you'll have to let me know, because I've actually been searching for it to try to find it myself.
Oh, nice. Well, if I find it after I read it, for sure, I'll mail it to you. I mean, yeah, there's like the reporter. I mean, she doesn't really, like, what does she really do? What does she really bring to the table? I mean, it seems like you could just cut her character out completely and the movie would still work just fine.
Yes, but this may give you something of a hint of what her role originally was,
Mm-hmm.
because the person Chuck Norris wanted to play that role was Whoopi Goldberg.
Nice.
And Whoopi
I
Goldberg
can
was
see
super
that.
hot in 1985
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she had just come off. I think she'd either just come off or was going to win the Tony for her one woman show on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you've ever seen that, that's amazing.
I never have. No.
It's really impressive. Like
Oh.
for all the Whoopi Goldberg on Star Trek kind of eye rolling thing, or Whoopi Goldberg on the Talk or whatever the talk show is that she's on.
The View, I think.
The View. They're all the same.
It doesn't matter. Yeah.
For all the kind of eye rolling you can do at that, she is really good at that. That show is incredible. Like you watch it and it's like, oh, no wonder this won a boatload of awards, because she's just, the character work is so good. But yes, she was originally supposed to play that role, and Joseph Zito, the aforementioned director, said, no, I don't want her. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to go with Dahlia McGuire. I think that's one of the reasons why Chuck Norris looks angry this whole film, because after this happened, he went to Golan and Globus and said, I'm never working with that guy again. He's gone.
Nice.
And so,
I mean, not for Zito, but
not for Zito, but Chuck Norris definitely had a strong voice had a strong voice in this, because he wrote the screenplay, and his brother has a story credit, which and also his brother did second unit direction.
Oh wow!
So Aaron Norris did a bunch of the action scenes. Second unit typically is the action scene people.
Mm-hmm.
First unit is the directors actually working with the actors. So,
well, the action is really well done in this. I mean, like every single vignette that we're talking about, it comes together really nice. It's actually shot very well. I enjoyed. I thought the cinematography was done superbly, and it looks good, especially when you think about how much their budget was and stuff like that for the time. I mean, it looks like it's shot really well. It's just, there's no real connective tissue besides we got to stop these terrorists, which is kind of a shame, because there's a lot of times where he would just show up and you're like, well, how did he get here? How did you know this was happening? And I know that there's like an informant, he kind of interrogates, or it's hinted that he interrogates one of the the terrorists, but it's it's still, that's like iffy at best. I mean, there's no real like why or how, and I think that's what I wanted from the movie, just a little more.
And I think that's one of the things that the reporter was involved in that they cut.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you just get these 1 minute sequences of him going to a guy who's dying and saying, "Where's Rostov?" Except he doesn't say it in that voice. It's more like, "Where's Rostov?"
There you go. Yeah. There was too much emotion in that first one.
Yeah, sorry. I'll get it. I'll restrain my instrument.
Yeah, this is the whole thing too is that so Chuck Norris is like a retired what is he, CIA, I think?
He's CIA.
Yeah, retired CIA. He's now working with his friend John Eagle. They like wrestle gators and sell, I guess, the alligators and stuff like that. And and Rostov, who's the USSR counterpoint, I suppose. It's like his old nemesis. He had captured him once and he wanted to kill him, but I guess his orders were like he wasn't allowed to. And so Rostov was planning this big invasion. He's going to take over the US, kind of a thing, destabilize it, let it tear itself apart. And he knows, because of his nightmares, that Hunter's still out there. And so he has to go take care of him, or he won't be able to rest, or he'll feel the mission won't be successful. So he goes to try to kill him, instead ends up killing his friend John Eagle. Mm-hmm. And that causes Chuck Norris to get involved. But you'd think after all that, because that's when he wants to get involved, after his friend dies, you'd think that he'd have some sort of like emotion or passion that, like, I got to get this, this is for John Eagle, but nothing. It's pretty, it's just pretty solid and flat the whole way.
He is 100% emotionless through this whole thing.
Yeah.
Now, although I guess if he's a CIA agent who kills people for a living, it would be pretty easy to kind of shut your emotions off and just kind of lean into the murder. Or you hate the director and you want to get this over with.
Let's get on to the next one. I got 7 more films in my contract. Let's get this done.
Now, do you think that Armadillo was a trained armadillo, or do you think that was just an armadillo that Chuck Norris brought to set one day? And it's like,
I wouldn't doubt it if it was literally just something that he found and was like, hey, this is cool. Let's put this in here.
because you're not going to have armadillos in Florida, especially not the Everglades.
No, that definitely was an odd choice.
I don't know have you ever taken one of those Everglades boat tours?
No, I never have.
I have many times. And
No armadillos?
that is no armadillos.
Okay.
A lot of alligators. There's a reason it's called Alligator Alley. And you'll literally pass like half a dozen alligator farms / wildlife shows to get to the Everglades where you can take the boat tour around.
Oh, wow.
You just get into a big fan boat like the one, actually you get in the one that was much bigger than the one John Eagle was driving around in. I guess they couldn't afford the family size.
Well, it's Golan
you get
and
like
Globus.
5 or 10 people and everybody pays like 20 or 30 bucks back in the 90s, and you just take that boat around and they take you to see cypress trees and they take you through all the reedy, swampy waters, and they take you around and like throw raw chicken out to feed gators. And
Oh, wow.
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds cool.
So that's why I refuse to believe that John Eagle didn't make money off of his airboat ride, because it's a blast.
There is that line about his keeping income from the government on his taxes. Yeah, I mean, I do have to say though that despite his lack of passion or whatever, and you're right, I guess you get desensitized to those things and you have to turn off your emotions. But even with all that, it does have like one of the best opening scenes, I think, in cinema, and it's just with the refugees, and they're trying to escape Cuba. They're coming to to America, and they're met by the Coast Guard, and it's they're like, hey, welcome to America, and of course they're all like, yeah, yelling, and it turns out it's actually Rostov. It was played by Richard Lynch, by the way, character actor extraordinaire. I love this guy. I mean, I know that his face is burned and scarred pretty bad, but I think that makes him like the perfect villain.
Yeah, that's one of the things I think that ended up giving him a career is the scarring, because it's not bad enough to where he looks like Phantom of the Opera or anything,
right?
But it's enough to so you look at him and say, oh, this guy's been through some stuff. He's not somebody you want to mess with.
Exactly.
And Richard Lynch ended up kind of making a career out of that, and I think that's one of the things that kind of gave him confidence to actually become an actor is after the scarring. It has something to do. It ties into his backstory somehow. But yeah, that opening scene just immediately grabs you like right away, because it's like, oh, this is that was just a boat full of men and women. The first person who dies is an old man. And it's just a boat full of like women and children and innocent people, and they just gunned him down.
They just gunned him down like crazy. Yeah. And then they take all the drugs that were in their boat. I mean,
I don't know who put the drugs on the boat, but it's the 80s. I guess you just kind of lucked into that kind of thing.
Everybody had cocaine in the 80s. But yeah, so they take the drugs. They, of course, the boat eventually makes its way to shore, and FBI and all that stuff are called to kind of check it out. And I like how, again, we see a little more, not character development, but we see some forethought and a little more insight into his character when Rostov actually takes the drugs and he like trades them for weapons to that drug dealer. And then he just like literally just kills the drug dealer and his girl. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. This guy's pretty cool.
Which that drug dealer is none other than similar veteran horror character actor, the late Billy Drago.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. He is another one that you see him and you're like, oh, bad guy right there.
Yeah, he's also in Delta Force 2 with Chuck Norris.
There you go. Yeah, and I mean, it's you think about it, and of course, all these Canon films, they did like to recycle their actors, and they kind of almost, if you think about it, they almost had like that old school Hollywood mentality, where kind of like the studio essentially owned your contract, and so you'd work just for that studio. That's kind of how they ran things.
Yeah, they would find a guy and they would run him into the ground, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, they did it with there's a reason the same girl is in Breakin' 2 and Ninja 3: The Domination.
Oh, Kelly. I don't remember her real name, but
Yeah, but that's the same girl because
yeah,
Golan was like, she's cute, she'll do. She can dance. She can dance. She can kick high. We could probably teach her some martial arts.
yeah.
This is movie 3 with Sho Kosugi. He'll definitely show up for it, and we'll just round out the cast.
She had 3 movies that year. It was Break-In, Ninja 3, and Break-In 2 all together that year. That's like a crazy year for her.
All 3 Canon movies, by the way.
All 3 Canon movies. I hope she made bank, but it's Canon, so
she
probably
did not. Yeah, she did not. There's a reason that Canon, you would only find one name in a Canon movie, and that's because that's the only guy who was getting paid.
Yeah, pretty much.
Kelly from Breakin' was not getting paid.
No, poor girl. But hey, I mean, still to be in 3 movies in 1 year, it's got to be something. Yeah. So the gorillas land on shore. They or terrorists, guerrillas, whatever you want to call them. And I like how as they're going, they just like shoot that couple on the beach. It's just like. And
okay,
go ahead.
Before you go past that shooting,
okay,
who brings a portable TV to your beach makeout party?
I don't know. I guess to help them get in the mood.
Yeah, because Phyllis Diller on Johnny Carson's definitely going to get somebody raring to go.
Maybe he's got a thing. I don't know.
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, all sorts of stripes, I guess. But yeah, so you're right. I mean, there's a lot of odd choices that they make, but again, it was the 80s, and I mean, the 80s are literally just all odd choices. So I guess it makes sense. But I did love that, you see them all just storming on the beach, and I thought that was really cool, and that's why I remembered it so much. It was like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. And then after that, it's real subtle and low key. They just start, like as I mentioned earlier, they impersonate, some of their guys impersonate some cops, and then just literally gun down some Cubans, just to get them to start hating the police. Then we hear threats of violence all around the country, and acts, not just threats, but acts of violence. Excuse me. And in similar veins. And so they just, these terrorists, as soon as they get there, they just get into these like 18-wheelers and all sorts of other vehicles, and just kind of just start driving all over the country so that they can start inciting, all these fights and instigating these events. Yeah,
that's one of the most effective ways the movie sets the tone for this without actually having to spend money.
Yeah.
The guys are running up onto the beach. There's 100 goons.
Yeah.
Coming out of these World War II era troop deployers, so you definitely get a D-Day vibe off of it. I can definitely see why you thought it was more of like a legit invasion, because this is shot like a legit invasion.
Yeah.
And they storm the beaches, and as they go to the trucks, guys are yelling out, Detroit, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, and people are getting onto the trucks and presumably driving to those locations.
Yeah.
And each truck can hold, 10 or 12 dudes, maybe
something like that. Yeah.
But that's really all you need to start a bunch of chaos, especially if you've got access to weapons.
Mm-hmm.
These guys literally have baskets of explosives, because everything involves a bomb somehow, or grenades,
of course,
or law rockets. And clearly they've got access to a Hollywood level costume shop, because they've got all these police uniforms.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they just beat up some cops and took their uniforms out. No, I know what you mean. They're definitely well equipped. They have the means to actually sneak in and be undetected, and I mean I think they're very effective at it, because you hear on the news there are all sorts of attacks going on and stuff like that. And of course the FBI is like, I don't know who it is. Let's get hey, Hunter. And I got to mention, that Chuck Norris's name is Matt Hunter. So, Hunter, he's going to go hunt. Anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Little on the nose there, Chuck, but okay.
He's going to go Matt.
That's right. Yeah.
He's going to frame a bunch of posters real nice. Like the poster for Invasion USA.
There you go. And of course, they suspect Rostov, and so they bring him back in because his partner, John Eagle, dies, and so he starts immediately going to like his old contacts and, in different clubs and stuff to see if they know of any mercs that have been hired. And so he starts to find out a few things. And then pretty much after that, it's literally just like him showing up at different places and stopping them like nonstop. The rest of the movie, it's just that until the very end when he, sets up his own little trap. But like there's the scene at the church, there's a scene at the mall. He literally just like shows up and just stops these things. The drive with the school bus,
school bus. Yeah. That's a great scene.
That's a great scene. I did like that one. Yeah. I think that's my favorite of all of them. It's shot beautifully. It's very intense. It's like okay, is he going to get it? Is he going to get the bomb? That kind of thing. And he does, of course, because he's Chuck Norris. He's going to make it work. He's Matt Hunter, man. And so he does it. But I think everything he does is just so, because like you said, they cut so much out. It's just so mind-boggling how he shows up at all these places at exactly the right times.
Yeah, and he shows up at exactly the right times, and he literally says the minimum amount of dialogue needed to make this a talking picture. He'll show up and it'll be like, did you guys lose something? And like plant a bomb on the terrorist car and the car blows up when the bomb goes off. Or, he'll show up and say, if you survive this, tell Rostov, it's time to die.
It's time to die. Too much emotion. It's time to die. I don't know. Yes. I can't do it, but
no, that's not bad. You gotta, this is just spoilers for what we're going to be doing later in the podcast.
That's right.
Because this is the most repeated line and the most memorable line in this movie is just, it's time to die.
Which I didn't get watching the movie and then reading about the novelization. Apparently he like actually carved his initial on Rostov's wrist so that every time he looked at his expensive watch, he would see the initial and know that it's going to be time to die next time they meet. So, again, that's like a little thing that I think would have added a lot to it. I don't know if that was in the original script or not, but I think that's really cool. And I would have liked to have seen it, but the movie still rules. So, who cares?
The body count for this movie is insane. I think
it's like over 100, right?
Oh, it's over 100 it's 129 if you believe the IMDb. And Matt Hunter personally kills 30 people, which is 100% believable because he's literally walking through scenes with just his two little his machine gun Manseer just shooting guys. He kills a guy throwing a knife.
The knife, yeah.
He blows up a bunch of guys like with their own explosives, which was impressive. So you're not wrong. This movie just rules. And it's literally the Chuck Norris movie because they don't try to make him have a romantic subplot. He doesn't woo anyone. He doesn't have to cry or look emotional any more than mildly irritated that terrorists are killing children and also his best friend.
Yeah.
He just literally walks through this movie is like, stick around, knife, or hey, did you drop something?
Doesn't work, huh? Works now. That.
Yeah, exactly. And he literally does not crack a smile.
Nope.
He does kind of wave at the reporter girl one time when she like throws something at him, which was funny.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was expecting a romantic subplot with them. And of course, nothing happens at all. And it was one of those where it's like, why didn't they? That's like typical for the era. So you would have thought, maybe it just slowed, maybe it was a pacing issue. I don't know. Or they just wanted more action. I'm not sure, but for some reason I was expecting it. And I think it's just because that happens in like all of these 80s movies. And it never came to fruition. And it kind of bummed me out a little bit because I was expecting some sort of something, but again, at the same time, this movie is just awesome. So
I can't help but feel like all of that was left on the cutting room floor, number one. And number two, Chuck Norris wasn't into it. And he was just like, no, I know who I wanted. I didn't get that. So you're getting the bare minimum, Chuck, and you're gonna do it. Although I will say, for somebody doing the bare minimum, he does all his own stunts.
Yeah, which is that's really cool. Although I love your image of passive aggressive Chuck Norris. I want that like to be a meme now. Just some sort of passive aggressive Chuck Norris. Yeah, so he's like shows up. He stops all these different plots. There was the school bus full of children. There was the at the church that they were going to blow up. All that stuff. He ends up killing Nico, who is like Rostov's second in command. It's like his number one guy. And he in the end decides to form I guess a trap, because at this point he's pissed off Rostov so much that like he knows he's going to come after him no matter what. So he fakes being arrested, and that way he can force them to send all their guys to this one place that he's at. And of course he calls in like the National Guard, I think.
Yes, the
National Guard. Yeah.
It's not fully spelled out, but it's basically a big trap involving the National Guard and this fake governor's conference, and also his arrest.
His arrest, yeah. And so, of course, Rostov takes the bait because he's been having nightmares about this guy for years now. He's just, but I got to say, it's his own fault. Like, literally, he could have succeeded if he had just left John Eagle alive. Like, if he had just forgotten Hunter completely and just did his mission, I think his plan would have worked. But he was so obsessed with this dude that he he Thanos'd it. He literally, in the comics, Thanos is like famous for doing something to make himself fail, like subconsciously. And I mean, he literally just Thanos'd this thing because it would have worked. It's a shame.
And everyone around him told him to just leave it alone.
That's exactly right.
But he's too busy. He's too busy shooting Billy Drago in the groin and throwing women out the window.
If you can, why not? So he falls for the trap, sends all his guys there. They end up surrounded. There's like a big shootout and firefight, while inside Chuck Norris and Rostov are basically just hunting each other. Just and I love the shots of him where he's just kind of looking around, just like trying to find Hunter, and he's missing it. And I thought it was shot just so well. The lighting was perfect. Just everything was done really, really superbly. And especially when you think about it being canon, it's like it makes it even that much more impressive, because it's not like they were known for like their cinematography or anything. But I thought they did a really great job with that part. Like, you just feel the claustrophobia as he's like going through the different rooms of in this building.
It gave me terrible flashbacks to my office job that I have not been at all year.
Gotcha.
But this cinematographer who did this, Joel Fernandez, he did the final chapter for Joseph Zito. He did Missing in Action. He did like 8 episodes of Walker Texas Ranger as the DP. He was Chuck Norris's guy. He did Sidekicks. He did Delta Force 2. He did Mission in Action 3. He did this movie, Children of the Corn. He was pretty much an 80s cinematographer. He did Joe Zito's first movie, this sick gross little horror movie called The Prowler.
I didn't know that one.
Excuse me, not The Prowler. The Prowler's good. The sick movie is Blood Rage, which is like the most like night picture, the dirtiest 1980 New York shot on location. Like,
Gotcha.
Can you tell the real pimps from the fake pimps kind of movie?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I probably could. But no, yeah, I thought, like I said, it was done really well. You're kind of tracking, you're tracking Rostov, like, okay, what's going on? Hunter just kind of shows up out of nowhere. And of course he utters his famous, it's time, essentially it's time to die. And shoots Rostov with the, doesn't he shoot him with the law?
Yes.
Yeah.
Although he's way too close. You got to be like 35 feet away from something for a law rocket to arm itself. So basically what he would have done was he would have shot it into Rostov and just punched a big hole in his chest with a rocket that wasn't armed, and the rocket would just go blow the building next door up. But it doesn't matter. It's a Canon movie. We've got all these law rockets sitting around. We're just going to shoot them.
We're just going to shoot them all. Might as well. Let's blow.
I mean, earlier in the movie, somebody shoots the under the barrel mount for the M16 like 4 times without reloading. So what are you going to do?
Well, I don't think realism was high on their list of to-dos. You know, I mean, it's canon, but it works, and I love what they do with it. I mean, it works so well. It's like just the quintessential like 80s movie, you know, 80s action flick. And I because it was, I guess really it wasn't until like the late 80s that we started seeing more comedy in the action movies. You know, like I mean, we had some, of course, but like it wasn't until at least like 87 is what I'm thinking of, like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, that we really get more of that, you know, action comedy kind of beat. You know, action movies were action movies, and Chuck Norris proves that he can do them pretty well, especially with this one here.
And the best you got in action movies were like some one-liners from Chuck or John Matrix. It really kind of
Matrix, that was his name. I don't know why I couldn't think of it. Yeah,
because it's, you know, it's all the same. It doesn't matter. It's Arnold. Arnold is Arnold.
Arnold, yeah, exactly.
Is he Robot Arnold? Is he Sad Dad Arnold? Is he my daughter is a zombie Arnold? You know, it doesn't really matter. Is he hanging out with Johnny Knoxville? Is he hanging out with Rob Schneider or whatever? Not Rob Schneider, but doesn't matter. Anyway, Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So speaking of the 80s, but yeah, this I really want to say, yeah, like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard, that generation is what made action movies decide, oh, we have to be funny. And it turns out some people like Arnold Schwarzenegger are pretty funny and are good at that sort of thing. Yeah. Other people like Chuck Norris, not necessarily known for his comedy skills, which is why Sidekicks didn't work.
No.
But you know, if you give him a dry one-liner, they hit pretty hard in this movie. And his one-liners in general are pretty good. They through choice or through happenstance, they really distill this movie down into just the stuff Chuck Norris can do well.
Yeah,
hang from the side of the truck, look cool, shooting machine guns, kicking people in the face, threatening dudes, throwing out one-liners, and driving around in a truck,
stabbing a guy in the hand. You know.
Yes, which is a great scene, and then giving him a grenade and being like, "If you live through this, tell Rostov, it's time to die."
It's good. It's good. Unfortunately, critically, the movie was not such a hit. I think it's got like an 18% or something like that on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, it's. I know Ebert gave it like half a star. I think
he gave it 0 stars.
Oh, did he give it 0?
He hated it.
Yeah, I mean, and I know a lot of it was just I mean, I think he even called it, let's see, like a brain-damaged, idiotic thriller, not even bad enough to be laughable. Wow, that's pretty harsh.
Well, Roger Ebert, when he missed on a genre movie, he missed wildly because he didn't get Starship Troopers either, and that movie's amazing.
That movie is so good. I love Starship Troopers.
The satire basically went over his head. It
went over his head, yeah, for sure.
And Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, he walked out of.
Really?
Yeah, he disliked it that much, which I understand, that's a vile movie and terrible things happen. But Tom Tolles and Michael Rooker are amazing actors, especially in that flick. Which, you know,
I like.
Doesn't have anything to do with this movie, but you know.
That's okay. It's not a podcast also, if you don't go off on tangents. You know,
it's also the 80s. I'm on theme. They probably celebrate Christmas at some point in that movie. It just looks sweaty and disgusting,
like the 80s. So yeah, Jay Chataway's score. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I know it's mostly just electronic kind of, a lot of pads, a lot of rhythmic, variation kind of thing. But I think it works. Of course, it eventually was released on CD a couple of years ago, and the full score, which is great, because a lot of times you don't get the full score. You only get bits and pieces of it, or you get several cues amalgamated into one track. But it's like the full score, so I thought that was fantastic. That hopefully will be ordered soon. They were out of stock when I tried, but yeah, I mean, it's just a great movie. So thank you again for bringing it up, because I'd completely forgotten about it until you. And you know what reminded me was when on Discord, when you changed your profile picture. I was like, wait a minute, that's Chuck Norris. And you were like, yeah, from, Invasion USA, the Christmas movie. And I was like, oh yeah. And it just like light bulbs started, the wheels started turning in my head. The light bulbs are turning on. And all of a sudden it was like, I remember this movie. And sure enough, yeah, it was amazing.
Since I rewatched it for Film Strip, it has become part of my Christmas canon.
Nice.
Yeah, so it fits in there, and everybody else has gone to bed, and it's time for me to zone out to some action movies.
Yeah.
This one, Lethal Weapon is. I usually end up watching Lethal Weapon and Die Hard with my wife because she loves those movies. Who doesn't? Nice. I'm going to get her to watch Invasion USA. She did not. She missed it somehow in the 80s.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's time not to die.
Yeah. I was going to say, hold on. Let's watch our language there. This one I think is probably going to be in my Christmas rotation. I just did an episode with Scott Leopold on of Holly Jolly Xmasu on Night of the Comet. The Christmas movie, Night of the Comet. Mm-hmm. It's another good one. And that's one he watches every year, usually around Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. So I don't know if that one's going to be part of my rotation, but for sure I'm going to watch it throughout the year because that's just a great movie.
You could also work Death Wish 3 in. I believe Death Wish 3 is another Canon Christmas classic.
I think you're right. I do believe there is Christmas in there, yeah. So we'll probably get to that sometime soon as well.
I will be glad to come back for that one because
yes, I gotta have
that. I love a chance to do my terrible Charles Bronson impression.
This will be good. Yeah. But that does make me wonder. What would you say would be like your happiest memory or moment of Invasion USA?
Do you mean besides introducing you, reintroducing it to you?
Of course,
because I'm pretty happy with that one. I gotta say, but.
That can count.
But I definitely, I don't know if I have a specific happiest memory for this one, or if it just kind of falls into the whole, my family would go on Friday night to the video store, go to Sizzler or Ponderosa or Ryan's or some terrible steakhouse for dinner, go to the video store, then get some kind of action movie for my everybody to watch, and either I would watch it with them if it was relatively child appropriate, or otherwise I would rent like a professional wrestling tape and go into the other room and watch like WrestleMania 4 for the fifth time. But it just kind of flashes me back to all those like late 80s family gatherings full of people who are no longer here, and just seeing the Canon logo is just like being punched with nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a Canon t-shirt that's just the Canon C. Nice. That I actually I actually wore that in New York the last time I was in New York, when I went to the Stuart Wellington's bar to meet Stuart, and actually I met Stuart and Dan McCoy from the Flophouse there wearing the Canon t-shirt, and had a really nice like 15-20 minute conversation with Dan, who was really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it was a good time. And yeah, Stuart was wearing a Hawaiian shirt that had Kreitz from Critters on it, like with luau hats and lays and tropical drinks. It was pretty great.
Oh man, that's good. I mean, for me, I think it would have to be when I finally saw it, because I remember it was years after it came out, and we would just keep going, and it was always gone at the video store. And when we finally was there, because at that point other action movies had pretty much taken over. I mean, I remember watching it and I thought it was awesome, but then I also know it was around the time of like Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo, and so I started renting more video games after that. And so I This one, I saw it like once, maybe twice. I want to say really it was only once, and then it just kind of passed me by after that. But I think for sure it would be definitely the first time I saw it, and it was so cool. It was everything that I wanted it to be, with those two, those twin, mini Uzis. I mean, it was so cool. It was just like the height of action.
And I want to say it also got a lot of play on cable. So you might have seen it on like TNT or I guarantee you this was shown on USA.
Yeah, like 1,000,000%.
Yes.
On USA. Oh man, but that does bring me to my favorite part of the show, which is a little segment I like to call "Gag Me with the Spoon." So this is where we do our best impression of our least favorite part of the movie, and then I put it out to you listeners, and you guys vote, and winner gets a totally rad Christmas sticker, unless I win, in which case I get nothing. But it's been 60 some, or I guess at this point 70 something episodes, and I still haven't won. So I think you're pretty safe. But I'll as a guest, I'll let you go first. Just kind of set up the scene for us, and then, yeah, take it from there.
Okay, so this is a challenge because there's no part of this movie that isn't awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
But for me, the line that works the least is where after Matt Hunter has just stabbed that guy in the hand, and the goons come up from downstairs, and he looks at him and he says, "If you come back in, I'll hit you with so many rights, you'll be begging for a left."
There was a few that didn't quite, that were just not as awesome. We'll say it like that, because that's mine too. I loved the scene. This is when they had the bomb. I think they were blowing up the church, and they pressed the remote and like it didn't work, and so then he ends up having it, and of course he blows them up instead. And so he says, and again, great scene. I just don't. The line I thought could have been a little more clever. He says, "Didn't work, huh? Now it will." That's it. That's it.
Now, see, I love that line just because it's so ridiculous.
It's definitely ridiculous. Yeah.
And the other, to me, the other line is just isn't. It isn't dumb enough. Mm-hmm. Like it needs to be slightly dumber. And it's that image of him saying, "Now it will," while connecting those two wires with his black gloves on, like those gloves are going to keep him from getting electrocuted or something.
Yeah, we kind of ignore laws of physics and all sorts of things like that in these movies, but they work. No, that was great. So yeah, I'll leave it up to you listeners, and you vote, and we'll see what happens. But like I said, I think you're pretty safe.
I don't know about all that.
Oh man, but it does make me wonder. G.I. Joe, they taught us that knowing is half the battle. What do you think the other half is?
The other half is clearly knowing what time it is. It's time.
I like that. That's better than mine. Mine is so if knowing's half the battle, the other half is not killing the friend of your old enemy and motivating him to try to stop you.
That's a good one. You could also say the other half is having a machine gun brazier.
Yep. Yeah. If you're going to stop some terrorists on domestic soil, make sure you have a machine gun brazier. Yeah. Oh man, Ron, it's been so much fun talking with you. Tell me about your show.
My show is the Film Strip podcast. I recently took over as basically the main host and the guy who does all the work. So it's going to be, it's been an interesting adjustment for me to like record audio and try to find guests and book guests and have people on. And I definitely want to have you on to talk about Krull at some point, Jerry.
Yeah, heck yeah. One of my favorites.
I'm gonna try to come up with a theme month and get to knock out some of my favorite of the guy in leather with medieval weapons genre.
Yeah, yep.
So we'll do that. We'll do a Beastmaster.
Oh yeah, another great one.
We'll do a Conan. If Conan hasn't already been done, I really hope it hasn't been done because I love the Conan movies and I love Beastmaster.
Well, there's always Conan the Destroyer.
Conan the Destroyer I like more than Conan the Barbarian because
You
it's
know,
stupider.
it
And he kills
is.
that giant puppet.
By ripping out its horn.
Yes. But Film Strip Podcast is basically just a bunch of fun people talking about movies. We don't limit ourselves to any specific genre, but we do tend to do theme months. So you'll have, for example, we had dueling podcasts where for 1 week it was a Freddy movie and 1 week it was a Jason movie.
Oh, nice.
I was doing the Jason side, and co-host Nick and Jay were doing the Freddy side, and we ended up with a 3-man podcast at the end for all three of us talking about Freddy versus Jason. We've done a lot of canon movies, so please go download and listen to Avenging Force and Revenge of the Ninja is an amazing movie and also a pretty good podcast. Ninja 3 has become something of a meme because of our love of V8 from that movie.
Yes, that love scene.
Yeah, lots of people that you will know from Totally Rad Christmas have been on there. We've had all three of the elves from Tis the Podcast show up, and there's definitely going to be more people. We've actually had all three of the elves on several times, sometimes as individuals, sometimes as a group. We've never had, I think, all three of them on at once, except for one of our Film Strip live session events. But every other time we've had two of the three, which is the origin of Rare Exports. I introduced that to Julia, and that was a lot of fun to ruin their lives with that.
Oh no!
And to do one of my favorite holiday movies with them, New Year's Evil, which is not a Christmas movie, but is another great 80s slasher movie. And so, yeah, check us out anywhere pods are casted. You can find us, or anchor.fm/filmstrip, filmstrippodcast.com, filmstrippod on pretty much all of the social media. So check it out.
Right on. Definitely check them out. I mean, they've done everything from like Terminator 2. I think y'all just covered Wonder Woman, right? A few months ago, something like that.
Yes, Wonder Woman not too long ago.
Mm-hmm. Poltergeist. I remember the Poltergeist episode. I mean, yeah, it's good stuff.
Last Christmas, we released all of the episodes we recorded of the Paranormal Activity series on one day. So that was like 6 podcasts in one day that were recorded over the course of a long time. That was many, many years in the making. Those sat around for quite some time.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sure because we'd done all of them. We were going to go to the release of the then newest Paranormal Activity, Ghost Dimensions, and life kind of got in the way, and then it just kind of ended up getting forgotten for literally years, 5 years almost or longer. And I'm sure that, when Jay released those, he had to go back in and edit out a bunch of talk about, I don't know, the George W. Bush administration or something, because who knows how old those things were.
That's definitely old, because I think it's been quite some time since he was president, if I recall correctly. Oh man. But yeah, check out, and on social media, where can they find you?
Social media, they can find me at, I believe it is Film Strip Pod on all the socials.
Nice.
Twitter, Instagram. There's a Facebook page that I've not gotten control of yet, but Jay's still running the Facebook page, so he'll do that for me until I actually set up a Facebook account, because I don't have one.
Oh wow.
But I'm going to do that for the show. And we have a letterbox, so you can go through our letterbox and see every one of our 301 episodes with links that take you directly to the episode. So if you want to go listen to Topsy Turvy, it's right there. You just search Topsy Turvy in our letterbox page. You can click the link and go right to it. I thought that was an idea I had to kind of make it easy for people to go through our decade-old 301 movie strong back catalog.
Wow.
Also, check out our most recent episode on the 1963 King Kong versus Godzilla, the original that we recorded to segue and show up right after our appearance on the Tis the Podcast Patreon for Godzilla vs. Kong 2021.
Nice. What'd you think of that, by the way?
I really liked it. I had a great time with it. It was very much filmed like professional wrestling and laid out like professional wrestling, and that's what I want from my kaiju movies.
Yeah.
Because the original King Kong versus Godzilla is also laid out like a professional wrestling match. So it all kind of worked for me. They didn't make you wade through a lot of boring stuff with people talking.
Yeah.
They got you right to the big old monsters, and that's what anybody's there for.
Yeah, that's the beef right there. So right on, man. Definitely check them out. And Ron, thanks again for coming on. It was fun.
It was great. We'll have to do it again sometime with some more Canon movies.
For sure. I'm sure we'll find something.
Yeah, Jay's been wanting to do the missing in action, so maybe we'll have you show up for one of those.
Heck yeah, I'm down for it anytime.
All right.
And on that note, I'll end it by saying it's time. So check us out on our social media pages, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you're feeling like Hunter saving a bunch of Christmas shoppers at a mall, leave us a review on iTunes. Not only does it help us reach more people, but you also get a free sticker. Now, don't forget to vote. Later, dudes.
On the Snow in Southtown Christmas podcast, we discuss Christmas movies, Christmas music, and we have fun segments where we always talk about something weird and something fun related to Christmas on each episode.
If we're tired of making fun of Michael Bublé, I might recommend Pentatonics.
I'm not going to play you two on this podcast.
Thank you.
He's eating ice cream and crunch taters. He's just partying, man.
Thank God it's them instead of you, right?
I was going to say he was rolling over in his grave, but I don't think he's dead. But
well, he's still doing it.
When he heard Patti LaBelle, he dug his grave and he rolled in it. How about 10s and 20s?
10s and 20s.
Be sure to check out our website at snowinsouthtown.wordpress.com, where you'll find links to our Facebook, our Twitter, and our Discord.
Yeah, I'd like the tiny tots, please. You made some small tater tots? Yeah, your tiny tots.
He told him the whole time. They know one beagle. Fire that up.
Speaking my language now.
You can stream our podcast at iTunes, iHeartRadio, Stitcher Radio, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
It's a problematic movie. Yeah, we should pee together at least once per decade, really.
He is Dallas Snow South because
he's jingling those bells.
Some
jingling them bells.
Jingling those bells.
Look what you did, you little jerk.
Check out Snow in Southtown.
You won't regret it. And by won't, I mean will.